So I guess this week we're going to talk about charter schools, something I know you're very passionate about. Tell us why, with a case that you've made many times, what is the best case you could make for charter schools?
Well, you know what? I remember the debate on the floor of the Missouri Senate. I believe it was 1998. I know it was late in that decade when we finally passed a charter school bill. And all the mandarins of the education establishment were up there opposing the passage of the bill. And I'm talking about the teachers' unions, the MNEA and the MSTA, which is not a union but is an organization, the Association of Principals, the superintendents, and all the rest. They're all opposed to the bill, and they're sitting in the upper gallery. And I got that day's Post-Dispatch, which said that had a front page article about the promise of charter schools that said that if the bill passed in the right form, the Missouri Botanical Garden would be involved in starting an environmental and plant science horticulture charter school. And there was the Missouri Science Center here in St. Louis that said, we will be involved in mentoring and helping to sponsor a charter school in science and technology. And I waved that at those folks in the upper gallery, trying to shame them, because here is promise. I said, what could be more promising to a poor minority single parent? This is a beacon in the night to them. Those poor parents and children trapped in failing schools, not just this year, but for generations. My adult life, they've been trapped there. And all the education establishment ever said was, we've got our own ideas about what minimal reforms will allow, just send us more money every year. And I had a belly full of that decades ago, okay?
I've seen you have a belly full of things before.
So I think that parents need more choices. I do not believe that a one-size-fits-all public education system designed 150 years ago for an agrarian society is going to cut it in the 21st century. So I say let 1,000 flowers bloom. Now, one thing, and I've even read this in your newsletter, you talk about public schools in one sentence and then you say, and then there are charter schools. But it bears repeating that every charter school is a public school. This is a subspecies of charter schools. And one of the differences is that they get less money than the main system.
Well, accountability is a little different.
I would argue that this is the first truly accountable public school. If they fail, and some of them have failed, there have been some crooks operating some of them, we pull the charter and yank them and they go out of business. But the people who oppose charter schools and oppose expanding them cannot explain why there's a waiting list. The question of demand by parents and students has been answered, and it's answered in favor of charter schools.
I don't know that anybody criticized the charter movement in the city of St. Louis, where the school has failed by the state's own standards. But make the case where this always fails is the charter folks aren't happy with just St. Louis. They want to go to St. Clair County. Give the case for why somebody in Jackson, Missouri, where you're very familiar with, where they love their school, if you represent them, the school doesn't want it, why should a rural person vote for that when where the problem you're talking about exists, they already have charter schools?
Well, I'll leave that to people who are more involved in the current debate. My animating interest in this current arises out of the tragedy I saw in the St. Louis and Kansas City public school systems when I was in office, which ended 4 years ago. And when a school board member here in St. Louis, in the city of St. Louis, said, Governor, he said to me, this is probably 12, 14 years ago, he said, we are preparing students for one of three failed paths. Either a lifetime of poverty, pack them off to the prison, or an early trip to the penitentiary. Now, I get emotional when I think about that. And yet, how many generations has this been true?